just take a few moments to settle in here and relax. Take notice of your body, scan through. Notice any areas of tension. And then just start to take notice of your breath. Maybe start to notice the rise and fall of your chest. Notice the quality of your breathing. Is it silky and smooth? Is it shallow? And just start to try to deepen your breath. Elongate your inhales and exhales. On your next inhale, stretch your arms overhead, stretch your legs out long. Take a nice morning stretch. Just start to waken up your body. And bring your toes over towards the right side of your mat. Maybe cross one leg over the other. Maybe bring your arms over towards the right side of your mat. Feel the nice subtle stretch in your left side body. And walk yourself back to center. Maybe take a nice stretch here. And then walk your feet over towards the left side of your mat. Maybe bring your arms over towards the left side of your mat. You have the option to cross one leg over the other here. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And walk yourself back to center. Hug your right knee into your chest. Give yourself a nice little hug here. And then extend your right heel towards the ceiling. Maybe grab behind your right hamstring and hug in. You have the option to stay here or maybe reach for your calf. You also have the option to bend your left knee and place your left foot on the mat. Soften into the stretch in your right hamstring. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And release your right foot back down to the mat, stretched out long. Hug your left knee into your chest. Give yourself a nice little hug. And then extend your left heel towards the ceiling. Maybe grab behind your hamstring. You have the option to stay here or reach for your calf. Soften in. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And release your foot back down to the mat. Hug both knees into your chest. Maybe rock side to side. Place both feet back down on the mat. Drop your knees to the outside edges of your mat. Bring the soles of your feet together. Come into reclined butterfly. You can place a hand on your belly and a hand on your heart. Take a few moments to notice your breath. Bring your hands to the outside edges of your thighs. Close your legs together like a book. You can bring your arms out to a T. Lift your feet off the mat, shins parallel to the ground. Come into a 90-degree angle with your knees. Go ahead and drop your knees down to the right side of your mat. Gaze over your left shoulder. You have the option to stay here or bring your right hand to the outside edge of your left thigh. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And slowly bring your knees back to center. Stay here, pause, and drop your knees down to the left side of your mat. Gaze can be over your right shoulder. Option to bring your left hand to the outside edge of your right thigh. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And bring your knees back to center. You can give yourself a nice hug here. Hug both knees into your chest. And extend both your heels towards the ceiling. Bend your left knee to a 90-degree angle and bring your right ankle over the left knee. Come into a reclined figure 4. You can grab for the back of your left hamstring or the top of your left shin. Soften in. Feel the stretch in your outer right hip. Stay here for 3 more cycles of breath. And release both of your feet to the mat. Go ahead and windshield wiper your knees from side to side. Feel free to stay on one side a little longer if that feels good before switching to the other side. And come back to stillness in the middle. Hug both knees into your chest. Extend both feet towards the ceiling. Bend your right knee to a 90-degree angle and bring your left ankle over your right knee. Reach behind, grabbing for your right hamstring or shin. Come into a reclined figure 4. Soften in, feel the stretch in your left outer hip. Stay with me for 3 more deep breaths. And release the soles of your feet back down to the mat. Go ahead and windshield wiper your knees from side to side. And come back to stillness in the middle. Hug both knees into your chest. Maybe rock side to side. And when you're ready, come up to a seated position. Sit up nice and tall, ground down through your sits bones. Extend both arms overhead and bow forward. Slowly start to walk your hands to the right side. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And walk your hands back to center. Slowly walk your hands to the left side. Feel that stretch in your right side body. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And walk back to center. And slowly rise back up to seated. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, bring your right hand behind you, left hand in front of you. Rotate open to the right side. Gaze over your right shoulder. On each inhale, grow tall through your spine. And on each exhale, try to twist just a little deeper. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And come back to center. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, bring your left hand behind you, right hand in front of you. Gaze over your left shoulder. On each inhale, grow tall through the crown. And on each exhale, twist a little deeper. Stay here for 3 more cycles of breath. And slowly come back to center. Stretch your arms out to a T. Cross your right arm over your body. Hook your left hand under your right. Hug your right arm in. Stretch out through your shoulder. Remember to breathe. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And release your arms down. Take a deep breath here. Stretch both arms out to a T. Cross your left arm over your body. Hook your right arm under your left. Hug your left arm in. Remember to sit up nice and tall. We're here for 3 more deep breaths. And release your hands back down. Come on over to hands and knees. Make sure your wrists are in line with your shoulders. Knees are in line with your hips. Toes can be facing down towards the mat. Make sure your fingers are spread out wide. Your fingers are pointing to the top of your mat. Extend your right arm out in front of you. You have the option to stay here, or you can also extend your left leg out behind you. Tighten through the core. Your left foot is flexed. Push out through the sole of your foot. Stay with me for 3 more deep breaths. And release your hand down to the mat and your knee back down to the mat. Extend your left arm out in front of you. Option to stay here, or Extend your right leg behind you. Flex your right foot. Tighten through your core. We're here for 3 more deep breaths. And release your hand down to the mat. Release your knee back down to the mat. Bring your knees out wide towards the edge of your mat. Sink back, come into child's pose. Forehead can rest on the mat. And just take a few slow, deep breaths here. Lift your head off the mat. Slowly start to walk your hands up towards your body. And then place your hands behind you. Lift your hips off the mat. Come into a baby camel. Head can drop back. Hips should be pushing forward. You should feel a stretch across the front of your thighs. Stay here for 2 deep breaths. Lower your hips down. Slowly start to come back to child's pose. Head can lower down to the mat. On your next inhale, lift your head off the mat. Start to walk your hands up towards your body. Bring your hands behind you and come back into that baby camel. Hips should be lifting towards the front of your mat. Head can sink back. We're coming into baby camel pose. Feel the stretch across the front of your thighs. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. Lower your hips down. Slowly walk back up to tabletop. Settle in here. Find stability. Plant your right foot between your hands and come into a low lunge here with your knee dropped. You can wiggle your back foot back a little bit. Slowly rise up, bring your hands to your hips, and then bring your arms overhead. Find stability, tighten through your core. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. Bring your hands to heart center. Inhale, spine long, nice and tall. Exhale, bring your left elbow to the outside edge of your right foot. Come into a low lunge twist. Palms are together. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And slowly rise back up to center. And you can bring your hands back down to the mat and bring your knee back to meet your left. Place your left foot between your hands. Wiggle your back foot back a little bit further. Set up for that low lunge with your knee dropped. Toes can be untucked. Bring your hands to your hips, slowly rise up. And when you're ready, extend your arms overhead, shoulders away from the ears. Stay here. You should feel a stretch in your right hip. Find stability. Bring your hands to heart center. Inhale, nice and tall. And on your exhale, bring your right elbow to the outside edge of your left thigh. Come into a twist. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. Slowly rise back to center and bring your hands back down to the mat. Bring your left knee back to your right. Find stability in tabletop. Make sure your alignment is good with your wrists under your shoulders, knees under your hips. Or tuck your back toes and slowly start to bring your knees off the mat and hips back. Come into your first down dog. If this is your first down dog of the day, you can go ahead and fan your feet out. Come up onto the balls of your feet and maybe sink down into your heels. Go ahead and play here for a moment. Stretch out through your calves. Inhale, lift your right leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Stay here for a moment. And then bring your left foot to meet your right. Forward fold. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, swan dive forward. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, step your right foot back. Stay here in low lunge for a moment. And then ground down through your hands, step back to down dog. Inhale, extend your left leg behind you. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Lift your right foot off the mat to meet your left. Come into forward fold. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, swan dive forward. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, reach your left foot back, come into low lunge. Ground down through your hands, step back to down dog. Come into plank. Stay here. Tighten through your core. And slowly lower all the way down to the mat. Untuck your toes. Place your hands under your shoulders. Root down through your thighs and the tops of your feet. Tighten your core, tighten your thighs. Lift your chest off the mat, come into cobra. And lower everything down. Tuck your toes, push back to down dog. Inhale your right leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Step your left foot to meet your right. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, swan dive forward. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, step your right foot back. Ground down through your hands. Step back to down dog. Push forward to plank. You have an option to take a vinyasa here. We will all meet in down dog. So if you lower down, you have the option to come into cobra or up dog. Tuck your toes, push back to down dog. Inhale your left leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Step your right foot to meet your left. Forward fold. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, swan dive forward. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, left foot back, come into low lunge. Ground down through your hands. Step back to down dog. Come into plank. Pause here. You have the option to just come right into down dog, or you can take a vinyasa here. So lower all the way down. Come into cobra or up dog. Exhale, push back to down dog. Inhale, right leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Stay here. Ground down through your feet. Bring your hands to your hips. Rise up, come in to high lunge. Extend your arms overhead. Shoulders away from the ears. Tighten through the core, hug the midline. Stay here for one more deep breath. Anchor your left foot down, come into warrior two. Settle in here. Make sure your right knee is tracking towards your right pinky toe. Shoulders are away from the ears. Flip your front palm. Reverse your warrior. Slowly rise back up to warrior two. Windmill your hands back down to frame your front foot. Spin your left heel up. Place your left hand on the mat. Bring your right hand to your right hip or extend it overhead. Twist open to the right side. Stay here for two more deep breaths. Bring your right hand back down to the mat. Step back to down dog. Inhale your left leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Ground down through your feet. Slowly rise up to high lunge. And extend your arms overhead, shoulders away from the ears. Tighten through your core. Find your stability. Anchor your right foot down. Slowly start to settle into warrior two. Arms open out to a T. Your front knee is tracking towards your pinky toe. Flip your front palm. Reverse your warrior. Right hand is reaching down your right thigh, right calf. You should feel a stretch in your right side or your left side body. And rise back up to warrior two. Windmill your hands back down to frame your front foot. Spin off your back heel. Place your right hand down on the mat. Bring your left hand to your hip or extend it overhead. Twist open to your left side. Bring your left hand back down to the mat. Step back to down dog. Come forward to plank. You have the option to take a vinyasa here. We will all meet in down dog. So lower all the way down. Come into cobra or up dog. And push back to down dog. Lift your right leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Rise up to high lunge. Extend your arms overhead. Shoulders away from the ears. Come into warrior two. Flip your palm, reverse your warrior. Slowly rise back up to warrior two. Bend your right elbow. Place your right elbow on your right thigh. Extend your left arm overhead. Come into extended side angle. Slowly rise back up to warrior two. Start to straighten your front leg. Hinge at your hips. Bring your right hand down to your shin or the mat. Come into triangle pose. Bend your right knee. Slowly rise back up to warrior two. Flip your palm. Reverse your warrior. Rise back up to warrior two. Windmill your hands back down to frame your front foot. Spin off your back heel. Step off back to down dog. Extend your left leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Rise up to high lunge. Arms overhead, shoulders away from the ears. Stay here. And spin your right foot down. Come into warrior two. Flip your front palm, reverse your warrior. Rise back up to warrior two. Bend your left elbow. Place your left elbow on your left thigh. Extend your right arm overhead. Come into extended side angle. Ground down through your heel and your front foot. Find stability. And rise back up to warrior two. Straighten your front leg. Hinge at your hips. Bring your left hand down to your shin or your mat. Right arm overhead. Triangle pose. Try to keep your shoulders in line. They should be stacked on top of each other, arms straight overhead. Stay here for 2 more deep breaths. And into your left knee, ground down through the soles of your feet and slowly start to rise back up to warrior two. Flip your front palm, reverse your warrior. Rise back up to warrior two. Windmill your hands back down to frame your front foot. Spin off your back heel. Step back to down dog. Push up to plank. You have the option to take a vinyasa here. We will all meet in down dog. If you lower down, come into cobra or up dog. And exhale, come back to down dog. Inhale, reach your right leg high in the air. Exhale, thread it through for low lunge. Push your left foot off the mat, bring it up to meet your right. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Bring your big toes together, separate your heels, maybe fist width apart. Slowly sink down, come into chair pose. Hands can be at heart center. Arms can be overhead, shoulders away from the ears, or arms can also be out in front of you, parallel to the mat. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And let it go, release down, fold forward. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, extend your arms overhead. Exhale, bring your hands to heart center. Ground down through your left foot. Kickstand your right foot. Your right heel can be kickstand up onto your left. We're going to come into tree pose. You have the option to bring your right foot to your left calf or the inside of your left thigh, whichever is comfortable for you. Make sure you hug your hips in, tighten your glutes, hug in through your core, like really hug in towards the midline, stand up nice and tall, feel grounded down through that left foot. So go ahead and place your foot wherever is comfortable for you, making sure you're away from your knee. Hands can be at heart center or extended overhead. I don't know about you, but I'm sweating. Hug in. We're here for 3 more deep breaths. And release your right foot down. Go ahead and shake both your feet out. Ground down through your right foot. Kickstand your left. Remember, we're going to tighten in through our hips, our glutes, our core. Go ahead and place your left foot on the inside of your right calf or thigh. One side could be different than the other. On this side, I'm just going to stay at my calf. Hands can be at heart center or extended overhead. Find a focal point. We're here for 3 more deep breaths. Go ahead and release your left foot. Shake that out. Ground down through your left foot. Bring your right knee in towards your chest. Your right hand can be on the outside of your knee. Stay here. Remember, we're going to tighten in through our glutes, tighten in towards our midline. Hug in. Find a focal point. You can stay here, or you have the option to extend your left arm out to the side and your right knee out to the side. Option to stay here, or you can also try to bring your gaze over towards your left fingers. Tighten through your core. Remember to breathe here. We're here for 2 more deep breaths. And turn back to center. Bring everything back in and go ahead and release your right foot down to the mat. Again, you can shake that out. Ground down through your right foot. Bring your left knee into your chest. Hand can be on the outside of your right knee or your left knee. Your right hand can be on your hip. Remember to tighten in your hip. Hug into the midline. Stand up nice and tall. And you have the option to stay here or extend your right arm out to the side. Option to stay here or extend your left knee out to the side. And for an added challenge, go ahead and try to gaze over your right fingers. If you start to shake, that's okay. Just be with it as it is. We're here for 2 more deep breaths. And come back to center. Go ahead and release everything down. Inhale, reach your arms overhead. Exhale, fold forward. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Place your hands down on the mat, step back to down dog. Inhale your right leg high in the air. Exhale it to the outside edge of your left fingers, or your right fingers, I'm sorry. Stay here. We're in like lizard pose. And bring your right foot to the outside edge of your right finger, or your left fingers. We're gonna come into Malasana squat, yoga squat. So go ahead and sink down. Sorry, that was a bit confusing. Your elbows should be pushing into your knees, knees pushing into your elbows. You have the option to stay here, or you can come into crow if it's in your practice. We're here for 3 more deep breaths. Release your hands down to the mat. Heel toe your feet together. Come into forward fold. Inhale, hands to shins, spine long, halfway lift. Exhale, fold forward. Ground down through your hands. Step back to down dog. Inhale your right leg high in the air. Exhale, bring your right knee to your right elbow, your left ankle towards your left wrist. We're going to come into pigeon. If your left ankle and left wrist don't meet, you can go ahead and tuck your toes under and make a diagonal from your right wrist towards the back edge of your mat so you can protect your knee. Otherwise, if your foot comes forward, it'll be in like a figure four type position. Mine doesn't do that. Go ahead and sit up nice and tall. And exhale, fold forward. Your hands can come down to the mat. Your arms can stack. Head can come to rest on your hands, or your arms can be straight out in front of you. Settle in. You have the option, if you need a little additional stretch, to wiggle your back foot further away from you. We're here for 5 more deep breaths. Bring your hands back down to the mat. Slowly rise up. Ground down through your hands. Tuck your back toe. Step back to down dog. Go ahead and wiggle your hips here if that feels good. Extend your left leg behind you. Bring your left knee to your left wrist. Come into pigeon on this side. Wiggle your back foot back. Remember, your right ankle should be over towards your right wrist. If it doesn't come to your right wrist in a figure four position, you can go ahead and make sure your knee and your toes are in a diagonal line towards the back of your mat. Sit up nice and tall. Try to square your hips. Exhale, fold forward. You can bring your hands together. Rest your head on your hands, or your arms can be stretched out in front of you. Soften in. We're here for 5 more deep breaths. Place your hands back down on the mat. Ground down through your hands. Tuck your back toes. Come into down dog. Go ahead and wiggle your hips. And settle in. Take one more deep inhale here. And exhale, you can sigh it out. This is our last down dog. Bring your knees back down to the mat. Come into tabletop. Cross your shins, come into a seated position. And extend your legs out in front of you. Come into staff pose. Sit up nice and tall. And inhale, bring your arms overhead. Exhale, fold forward. Hands can come to your soles of your feet, your shins, to the mat. Soften in. We're here for 5 more deep breaths. Slowly start to rise back up. Bring your legs out wide. Ground down through your sit bones. Reach your arms overhead and bring your right hand to the outside of your left thigh or shin or your sole of your foot. You can also just bring your right hand to the outside of your mat if you want to sit up. I'm going to grab for the outside edge of my left foot. We're twisting here. Your left hand is on the mat. Right hand is on your shin, your foot, thigh. It's your practice. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And slowly come back up. Extend your arms overhead. Bring your left hand to your shin or the outside edge of your right foot. Right hand's down on the mat. We're twisting over to the right side. You should feel a stretch in the right hamstring and the left side body. Soften in. We're here for 3 more deep breaths. And rise back up. Bring the soles of your feet together, knees out wide. We're coming into butterfly. You can reach for your ankles. Sit up nice and tall. And fold forward. Keep your chin away from your chest. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. Sit up nice and tall. Go ahead and cross your legs. Come into an easy seated position. Ground down through your sit bones. Interlace your hands behind your back. Squeeze your shoulder blades together into a nice shoulder and back stretch. Stretch open through your chest. Stay here for 3 more deep breaths. And release. Go ahead and come over into a seated position. Knees can be pointing towards the ceiling, soles of the feet can be on the mat. We're gonna come into boat pose. You have the option to just stay here. You can sink back a little bit. Hands can be behind your thighs. You can just stay here, or you can bring your legs off the mat, parallel to the mat. You can also extend your arms out. We're here. We're going to be here for 5 deep breaths. Things could get a little shaky. Remember to breathe. And slowly lower down to low boat pose, shoulders off the mat, heels hovering over the mat. Stay here for 5 deep breaths. And release down. Bring your soles of your feet to the mat, knees pointing towards the ceiling. Place your hands down by your hips. Ground down through the soles of your feet. And slowly start to lift your hips off the mat. Come into bridge pose. Tighten your glutes. Ground down through the soles of your feet. You have the option to stay here, or you can interlace your hands behind, under your back. Walk your shoulder blades together. We're here for 5 deep breaths. Slowly release your hands, release your shoulders, and lower down 1 vertebrae at a time, bringing your hips down last. Go ahead and windshield wiper your knees from side to side. And come back to stillness in the middle. We're going to take 1 more bridge pose. You have the option to do exactly as we did. You can take a restorative bridge if you have a block, placing it under your sacrum, or you can come into wheel. Go ahead and set up. We're going to be here for 5 deep breaths. Remember to tighten through your glutes. Ground down through the soles of your feet. And go ahead and lower down. You can windshield wiper your knees from side to side. And come back to stillness in the middle. Hug both knees into your chest. Maybe rock side to side. Go ahead and extend both heels towards the ceiling. You have the option to stay here, legs up the wall, or you can come into shoulder stand or plow if that is in your practice. Go ahead and set up. We're here. We're going to be here for 10 breaths to give us all a chance to get into a pose we want to be in. Feel the weight of gravity working on your legs. And whatever position you're in, slowly find your way back down and hug both knees into your chest. Again, you can rock side to side if that feels good. Hug your right knee into your chest. Extend your left leg out long. Give yourself one little hug. And then bring your left hand to the outside edge of your right thigh. Extend your right arm out to a T. Drop your right knee over towards your left side of your mat. Gaze over your right shoulder. Come into supine twist. Settle in here. We're here for 3 more deep breaths. Slowly start to rise back up to center. Extend your right leg out long. Hug your left knee into your chest. Give yourself a nice little hug here. Keep your right hand on your left knee. Drop your left arm out to a T and drop your left knee over to the right side of your mat. Gaze over your left shoulders or shoulder. Come into supine twist, second side. Settle in here. We're here for 3 deep breaths. Slowly come back to center. Hug both knees into your chest. You have the option to rock side to side. You have the option to reach for the outside edge of your feet and come into happy baby. At this time, I invite you to do anything you need to do to complete your practice today. And when you're ready, you can hug your knees into your chest and come into Shavasana. Extend your feet out to the outside edges of your mat. Flip your palms up. Close your eyes and settle in. Slowly start to deepen your breath. Go ahead and invite some movement into your fingers and your toes. Maybe stretch your arms overhead. Maybe hug your knees into your chest. And when you're ready, you can roll over onto your right side. And take a deep breath. And find your way up to a seated position. You can close your eyes and bring your hands to heart center. Take a moment to honor yourself for showing up, for practicing. Feel the sensations of the energy moving through your body. Maybe set an intention for the rest of your week or your evening. Thank you so much for practicing with me this evening. Namaste.